Hello, everyone. It's Donna Cravata, and we are back again for another installment of the Real 50 Over 50. And this week we have somebody who is very, very special to me, and I'm so happy to share her with you. Her name is Tina Walsh, and she is the founder of Lighten Up Wellness, and she's inspired hearts and souls to grow and evolve into their best version. Tina's gift and intuition guides you through profound change. You'll identify, make sense, own, release, transform, and change behavioral patterns and create mindfulness to move towards the greatest potential of your best self. And I can tell you personally that that is all true. Um, and one second. Oh, sorry about that. If you're trying to watch through Facebook, we just had a Facebook issue. So, oops. StreamYard keeps doing it with Facebook. I apologize. But anyway, back to Tina. She is amazing. I've worked with her for years, and she has helped me heal some monumental stuff. So I am really excited to share her with you today. And is there anything you want to add before we get rolling?
Yeah, I just want to say hello to everybody and thank you for the sweet introduction.
Well, so what happened when you turned 50?
Wow, 50 is like, well, I tell you, when I turned 50, I moved here and I'm about to move again. So 50 was very monumental for me. But I think when we turned 50, I used to have a friend who was a lot older than I was. She was my neighbor. And she used to always say to me, "Wait until you turn 50, Tina." And I'd say, "Why, Marie?" And she'd be like, "You're going to learn the word N-O." No. And it is really, there really, in reflecting, there really is something to that. I feel like it's a time of life when we have the opportunity, most of us that have children, our children become are a little bit older and more independent, and we have that opportunity to come back to the self in some way. And that's what happened for me. And then it was, learning how to have better boundaries with people and saying that no word, like, no, I can't because I don't want to. So I think
Mhm.
that was a big change for me, being a people pleaser and a caretaker. I have a lot of that in my personality, and I still grapple with it. As we talked earlier.
Yeah,
But living and learning always.
yeah.
And but I think 50 is like a real monumental time to do a lot of self reflection, and you kind of hit that milestone in your life where you ask the question, how do I want to spend the rest of my life? Like half is gone, or more than half is gone. I'm on the other side of the mountain, you know?
We're gonna need some science if that's half.
Yeah, exactly. So I think those are the big changes for me, that piece of self-reflection. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and learning how to put yourself before others.
Yeah, and still I'm a work in progress, I like to say.
You are a work in progress because you just became a grandma.
I did. I became a grandma on August 24th. Um, my middle daughter, Kerry, gave birth to a baby boy. Trevor is his name. And it's really a special time, I feel like, in my life. And I feel like watching my daughter become a mother and spending time with her has been very, very, like, it's like a sacred time, I feel like, of when we become a mother, it's such an incredible initiation and opening. I feel like it's such a deep heart opening for us. And to watch my daughter Kerry go through that has been really beautiful, really, really sweet. And then to see this baby, babies are so precious and
Mhm.
innocent. And um, yeah, it's just really, I feel like when I'm spending a lot of time with her, and I describe it like when I go to their house, her and her husband's house, it's like walking into a love vortex, because everybody's just so in love with this baby. So it's been really beautiful.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet. And he's doing well?
He's doing great. Yeah, he's doing really well. I mean, my daughter says, "Mom, Trevor is a really high maintenance baby. And yeah, I'm like, Carrie, all babies are high maintenance.
Just wait, they turned 13.
I'm not going to tell her that. I don't want to bust her bubble. But, and then, when we do become mothers, it's such a change to our life,
It
I mean,
is.
it's a
It
big,
is.
like I said, I'm looking at it from this, looking at it from this space, witnessing versus being in it.
Yeah,
And it's it's a lot to bring a life into the world.
it
You know,
is. When
I
I
think
when I had Matthew, it was like this filing cabinet in my head just went into a spin, and it was like everything clicked into a whole different order of priority.
right. Yeah. So watching her, again, like from this space with all, with all the experience that I have as a human and as a mother and um just watching that happening for her, it's a lot. It's really a lot. And to give birth is not an easy thing, as we know. Whether we're trying to birth a child or birth an
Mhm.
idea or birth a business, birth is usually a pretty messy, hard thing.
It is, and then we forget about that part, otherwise we'd never do it again.
That's what Carrie actually asked me. She said, "Mom, how did you do this 3 times?" I said, "Oh, you forget."
So now one of the trends that's been occurring through these conversations is, sharing things that we wish somebody would have told us.
Mm.
So is there anything about being a mom or being a grandmother or anything at all that you'd like to share that you wish somebody had told you that you didn't have to learn the hard way?
Oh, I'm a master of learning the hard way.
I know.
Um, I think probably one of the biggest things I wish somebody would have told me is maybe not to take myself so seriously, like not to be so hard on myself
Mhm.
and not to take myself so seriously. I think that would have been quite a gift. Um, and whether I would have heeded the advice, I probably wouldn't have knowing myself. But that would have been nice, to learn that, like to not be so hard on oneself. Um, and to not take things so seriously. Everything is just an experience and um, to not put the labels on it, right, wrong, good or bad, but just to try to let the experience, whatever it is, to try to be,
Flow, yeah.
yeah, exactly, be present with the experience and just try to live it rather
Mhm.
than put it in some category of this is great or this is awful. Yeah.
Or things will get better when this is done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, which is like that future, it's future oriented, right? Which is like we miss the present moment, which, in all the work that I do, it is about presence, for myself and for my clients. Like we're trying to be present in our life.
Yeah, and the thing is even if there's that lesson that you have to learn in that present moment that isn't the greatest thing that you wanna go through, you have to learn that lesson at some point, and it's much better to learn it in the present moment than to carry it around
Yeah,
for a decade or 2 and then figure it out.
right. That's so true. Exactly. And that, even lessons, like I try to hold that now for myself of I don't even try to look at it like a lesson. I try to always look at things like an opportunity, like
Ooh,
what is the
I like
opportunity
that.
here to be a better to somehow come out of this better,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
like that.
Yeah. And
I
and
like
I try to hold it like that. I'm not saying I'm always successful, but I
well,
yeah, I try to hold it like that.
we know all of these things here,
Mhm.
and it's about learning them here. And that the distance from here to here could often be very long.
Yes, it's so true. Right.
Could be a long and winding road.
Right.
So now you talk a lot, and I have experienced this with you as well, is that all healing starts with self.
Mhm.
So talk a little more about that. Like, how does that play out in the work that you do?
Yeah. So I think a lot of times for people, myself included, when we're in our struggles, and we all have them, we tend to want to look outside of ourselves for someone to fix it, to make it right, and a lot of times, as we do that, we're really giving our power away to the other person. Or, like in the old paradigm, there was the guru, like you try to
Mm,
find a guru to help you, and not that we don't need mentors or guides, but I think a good guide or a good mentor will lead you into learning how to trust yourself and your own wisdom and your own heart and your own spirit, and that you ultimately have the answers within you. You just maybe need someone to guide you to your own truth, to help you get there. But really, you're your own healer. We all are.
yeah,
And so I think that, if we can hold it like that, it's very much takes us out of victim consciousness and into a place of empowerment. Like, I can do this. I have everything is in me. I just maybe need someone to help me access it.
yeah,
So that's what I try to hold for people, never to feel like I'm the authority in their life's journey, because I'm not. They're the
mhm,
authority in their life, and it's to help them feel that and be able to own that for themselves. Like, I'm my own authority.
yeah. And from working with you, like you were working with me mostly on personal stuff
Mhm,
and healing personal stuff, but that has carried through into how I work now.
mhm. And I think, Donna, to that point, you know, however we're organized, whatever blocks we have, whatever limiting beliefs we have, whatever wounds we have, they don't just affect one part of our life. They affect the whole life. So it's going to spill over from personal relationships into whatever relationships we have, whether they're business, whether they're family. Um, so I can appreciate that it does help us in all areas of our life when we heal and clear and grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ye
It's helped with my parenting too.
Yeah.
And, because Matthew is kinder than me. I've had to learn to be kinder.
And kindness is a beautiful thing for all of us, and learning how to be kind with ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Like, learning how to be kind here.
Yeah.
And then we have more capacity to be kind, outside of us. Everything starts here. Yeah. And that was a really profound thing for me in my own healing, was to really realize that it is all in here. The good, the bad, and the ugly, it's all here. And yet, I think, in my work, it's a lot of shadow work. And I think shadow work gets a bad rap. Like, people are almost like afraid of that word, or their shadow, and I was too. And yet, it's to really understand that so many gems live in healing the shadow parts of ourselves. Like, there's always a piece of power in the shadow.
Yeah. And it's not going away. You need to learn how to dance with it.
Right, right, and integrate it. And
Yeah.
actually, as you dance with it and integrate it, it actually helps you to access more of your power,
Mhm.
and I mean power, not power over or not
Mhm.
force, but
Yeah.
just your own internal sense of self. That's what I mean by power. Yeah.
Yeah. It the stuff works.
It works, and it's not I always try to be transparent with the people I work with, that it's not easy work. It's hard work to look at ourselves and to own our stuff. It's hard. But I feel like at a certain point in my own journey, I had done enough of the work to realize that there was so much freedom and liberation on the other side, that now I'm not so afraid of
Mhm.
the dark pieces that come up in myself. I'm kind of like, oh, here's another opportunity to
Yeah.
grab another piece of power, or become more whole, or become more integrated. So I'm not so much in fear of that anymore. I was once upon a time,
Mhm.
but I'm not anymore after
Yeah.
all these years.
I was too. I'm much better with it now, and, I was incredibly grateful to not be doing that work alone because I think
Mhm.
that, um, you can get stuck someplace and not know how to get out of it.
Yeah, and in the model of work that I'm trained in, we always say in our model, my mentors always say healing happens in connection, not isolation. So I think that speaks to exactly what you're talking about. Like, I can't do this by myself. I mean, I can do parts of it, I can support myself, but really to do the deep work, I really need to have a guide to help. I really need to have a connection,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
because you have to fully let go, and somebody has to take you through that process.
Right,
You can't be the one that's, like, charting the course and
right,
and walking the path. You need
right. And
somebody to chart that course for you.
right. And I mean, I take even in myself, I take that very seriously for my own self in that as I work with people, I'm always in my own therapy because I can't take people any place that I'm not willing to go myself.
Mhm.
So I hold, and that feels like a piece of integrity, to hold that, and I have to continue walking my own path, and I do.
Mhm. Yeah, because there
Sometimes.
is no end.
Right, there is no end in the life, Exactly, in my early years, I used to think, like, "If I could just get through this,
Yeah.
it'll be so good," There is no end. And, and now I can hold that as exciting, actually, because
Mhm.
I feel like holding that helps us know that, like, in reality, we're limitless.
Yes.
And there's always more growth available for us. Always, always, always. I can always grow and evolve and become better in ways. So I find that exciting actually at this point.
Now when did that shift for you?
Hmm, that's a good question. I would say probably maybe 10, 12 years ago. And it was after I graduated from my body centered psychotherapy program. It was kind of like having that mindset of not I'm done. I didn't have, I knew that I wasn't done, but it felt like such a milestone in my life. And yet, when I went back, I've always been involved in the community that I belong to. When I went back to school the following year, it was like starting over again. It was like the crap really hit the fan, And so it was like, oh wow, this is really just another beginning. I kind of was holding it like it was an ending and a milestone, but it really was a new beginning in some way. And 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 then after I lived that experience, I know that that's the truth all the time now. And
Yeah,
so
it's
I
a
don't.
cycle.
Yes, exactly. We have um we all go through cycles, right? We have like the really good time where we're kind of like it's smooth sailing and it's easy going. And then, the way we hold it in our model is then we run out of support for that. And then the next piece of stuff opens up, and then it's like, okay, now I need help to get through this next piece of stuff, this next block or this next um limiting belief or whatever it is. I need more support to get through that. And yet it helped as I get the support that I need to get through that, it helps me rise up again, and it always reminds me of my roots are in yoga. That's where I kind of started my own journey many years ago. And it always reminds me of the yogic saying, no muck, no lotus,
What
and
does that
all
mean?
well, it means like, we have to go into the mud or the muck, and we have to kind of heal our own muck to be able to rise up. And the roots are in the root chakra.
Mhm.
And then we call it, when we rise up at the crown of the head is the thousand petaled lotus.
Mhm.
And so in order to become that thousand petal lotus, it's really about deepening those roots and healing those roots. So it's root to rise. That's another
Mhm.
one that I love. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. And, like, when you're working with clients, how do you know what they need?
Well, I think it's about, I'm going to use that presence word again, right? Like really being present with my client and really helping them tune into their body. And in this instance, I'm going to say their heart, like really tune into their heart around what it is they're wanting for themselves. So helping them define what they're needing. Like I'm trying to help them define what they need rather than feel like I know what they need. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to meet my client where they are. And then as they access their need, I'm trying to help them clear out what gets in the way of them meeting their own need.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we learn to put, as caregivers or women or mothers, and I hate to stereotype, and it's not just women, it's men too. A lot of times we learn to put other people's needs before our own. And a lot of times we can't articulate what we need.
Yeah.
And I know for me, in my earlier years of the work, that was my own work. I couldn't articulate, I had a teacher one time, I was doing this piece of work. I was, crying, just a mess. And she's rubbing my back and she's going, "What do you need, Tina?" And I'm going, "Oh no, I'm good. I don't need anything."
I'm good, would you like a sandwich?
Right. And she's like, and therein lies the problem, Tina, And so, my own journey has been about, learning how to identify my own needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of our work because even culturally, we've learned to get external validation. We've really learned to go outside of ourselves and disconnect, like we learn to go that way instead of this way, home here into the self. So, and that's where needs live. It's like when we exist, we have needs.
Mhm.
And so learning how to articulate our needs is a very important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was exactly like that. I didn't know. Like, so I
Yeah.
was, a friend of mine asked me, like, "You need to do something that's gonna make you happy." I'm like, "And?" Like, what does that look like?
Right, right, right. Well, like when you say that, right? Like another piece that I've learned about my own journey is, a lot of us intergenerationally are conditioned into great suffering.
Yeah.
So that's also a piece of the work I do. It's like the intergenerational piece, of how we inherit our beliefs and how we inherit the way that we live. It's so multi-layered. It's not just now. Like we're made from our parents, and then we're made, they're made from their parents, and so on and so on. And if we think about our age, right, over 50, like so many of us come from immigrant parents or parents who lived through the depression, right? Like
Yeah.
all that impacts our
Yeah.
belief system
Yeah.
whether we are conscious of it or not. It's
It's
there.
so true. I mean, like, my mom, she was first generation. My
Mhm.
grandparents they were peasants from the old country and,
Right.
were very involved in the Holocaust, and,
Mhm.
my mother carried all of that, and,
Mm.
her message to us was, "You're just gonna work," and, and if it was supposed to be fun, they'd call it something else.
Right, 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 it's so true. Well, I always say, I always kinda joke, like, and say, like, in my family, it's kinda like the message we got, not verbally, but just energetically. Like the message was, if you're not suffering, you're not living.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like you're saying, like people talk about like joy and happiness, and we're kind of like, what are they like? What are they talking about? Yeah,
No, no. I mean, it was really deeply ingrained in me that if I had anything positive or good or fun or like frivolous, there was going to be a price to pay. And
right,
I better keep my eye out for that because that shoe is dropping soon.
right,
And
right,
it was
right,
going to land squarely on my head.
right. It's so true. Yeah. So I think so many of us have those unconscious places that live within us. And the beautiful thing about bringing things from the unconscious to the conscious is that then we conscious of them, then we can use the mindfulness tool to have choices.
Yeah,
And that's the empowerment piece, I feel like.
yeah,
If I don't know that I'm doing this, it's kind of like when people talk about manifesting, right? Like, so many people will come to me and I've done the affirmations, I've done the vision boards, I've done the this, I've done the that. Why can't this, why can't I get what I'm looking for? And it's usually because there's subconscious beliefs there energetically that don't allow the person. It's like, I want this, I'm waiting for it to come to me, but on some deep level, there's oh no, I can't have that. So it's unconscious in us. And so our work is to bring the unconscious to the conscious so that we then have choice.
and then it's tangible.
Right, right, exactly.
You can do something about it.
Exactly. It's in awareness is the gift, truly. Sometimes it's painful, but it gives us a choice to do something different in the consciousness or in the awareness.
Yeah, I really like that. Awareness is the gift.
Yeah, awareness is the gift. And sometimes it feels so painful when the thing comes up to surface or, when it comes up to awareness. But yet, if it doesn't, we don't have a choice. We're going
Mm.
to, and the subconscious, which is, I mean, there's all kinds of statistics about the subconscious mind. There's all kinds of, anywhere from 70% of us is unconscious up to 90% of us is unconscious. So I don't know what the actual number is. I just know it's a lot. And that in that statistic, I'll never run out of things to work on personally, Yeah. So
There's a, there's a never-ending supply of ancestral baggage.
yes, exactly. And so and even if we look at humanity as a whole, right? If we look at not even just our own ancestors, if we look at humanity as a whole and we look at the state of the world right now, right? Like
Yeah, there's a long list.
there's a lot to work on. There's an unending, unlimited supply of stuff to work on to
Yeah.
make the world a better place. And I always believe, sometimes I can feel so overwhelmed with what's going on in the world and like, oh my God, like where do I focus my attention? Like, how do I help one thing? And it's like my teachers and mentors will always say, don't underestimate the power of working on yourself
Hmm.
and how that affects the collective.
Yeah.
And that's what that I can hold on to that and it helps me feel better. That as I work on myself, I'm working on humanity.
Hmm. From a layman's point of view, I always know when I've met um, a person who's truly a healer
Hmm.
because two things are present. One is they just cannot make friends with technology.
Oh, that's me.
I know that's you. And the other thing is they cannot, like, just take in information. Like, I can sit and watch bad TV all day, and it doesn't affect me. But, like, I know you can't do that. Like, you just physically cannot do that. And
I
to
have
me, that's the indicator for me that this is real, because there's a
yeah.
lot of people that aren't real.
Yeah, I have a TV in my house, and it's only here because when I moved in, my son was with me, and
Mhm.
I rarely turn the TV on because it's like it's overload to my nervous system. It's just too much for me. So I rarely have it on. I'll watch a good documentary or I'll watch some
Mhm.
music sometimes or but I can't watch like I'm very empathetic, so I can't watch violence. Like I feel it. So I no thank you. Yeah.
Those are always my indicators that I'm with the real thing,
Mm,
and I know quite a few people who are the real thing,
mhm. Yeah.
including you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I do I do feel like I'm very genuine in the world and in the work that I do and
Yes.
in who I am at this point in my life. I actually can own that. Yeah.
I mean, I know that I would not be who I am today without working with you. I
Mm,
wouldn't. You took me through some crazy stuff.
mm.
Like, I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, I get it. I've done that work myself and
Mm.
um still do it and still sometimes say you got to be kidding me. Like this can't really be the truth, but um it is. We see those deeper places uh which again can be really painful, but it's also where liberation lives.
Mhm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the thing is too, is like as you go through this and you understand the process, even though it is painful, it doesn't feel as devastating as it does like the first few rounds.
Right, that's true. It's true. I think you become again, like you get a taste of at least for me, I had gotten a taste of the freedom that came from doing the work, over a period of time. And then I think I referenced it earlier in the conversation. It was like, okay, like here's the next piece, but I can hold it as an opportunity for more freedom and liberation
Yeah.
in my life on
Yeah.
some level.
And, after you've gone through it a couple of times, you realize that it is a cycle, that there is a way out of it. And,
Mhm.
you're not going to get stuck there because that's how I was feeling the first couple of times I've been through this was
Mhm.
that, what if I get stuck here and this is like where I am, I don't want to be here forever. It's awful.
Right, I get it. I totally understand, and it can be, um, yeah, healing ourselves is no joke.
It is no joke.
It is no joke. I
Um,
always say I truly understand what they mean now by like the hero's journey or the heroine's journey. It's like I really understand that because it is, you know, I think well, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know for myself in my earlier years of um getting into healing and so forth, or having an awakening. I thought, 30 years ago in my own awakening, like that was it. I
yeah,
was done.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, this is great. I'm having an awakening, and little did I know, that, excuse me, that was just the start of it, that it was not rainbows and unicorns, it was hard stuff.
yeah. It
Hard.
really, it's excavating.
Yes, it truly is excavating for sure. It really is, and it's I think too, the other way I like to hold it is as you excavate, you're rebuilding your foundation.
Yeah,
You're rebuilding a stronger foundation to stand on, you know,
100%.
because a lot of us come in with foundations that nothing could stand on it because it's
Mm,
broken. It
yes.
hasn't been laid well.
House of Cards.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
And so and then when you start to do your healing work a lot of times too, I think another reason why it's so important to have a guide or a mentor to do it with is because inevitably things are going to fall apart, and you start to think like you're going backwards, or at least I did, and a lot of my clients feel that way, like they're going backwards, and you're not going backwards, you're going deeper to help create that more solid foundation,
yeah.
but it can feel like quite, I always say I'm on a roller coaster and, I don't know whether to hold on or let go, at different moments. Like, if I'm hanging on for dear life or I'm just going to let go, I'm not quite sure. I vacillate between those two places. It's hard to let go.
It's very hard. That's why it's hard to do this alone, because you can let go if there's somebody there
Right,
that
holding you.
that are being the guardrails for you.
Yes, absolutely, that's true. Yeah.
Well, all I can say is this woman is magic. And we're coming up at the end of the show. Is there any last bit of wisdom you want to share?
I would say it's never too late to start to work on yourself, and that the rewards of that, like, you're in pain anyway, so you may as well feel the pain so that you can be liberated. That's what
Yeah,
those would be my words of wisdom, like,
that's very true.
you're worth it, whoever you are, you're worth having a life that you desire and that you love, and, yeah, you're worth it. You're worth the time and effort to work on yourself.
Those are very wise words.
Yeah,
I hope
thanks.
a lot of people hear them.
I hope so too, because the world needs to be healed,
Yeah,
and it starts with each one of us,
absolutely.
truly. Yeah.
Absolutely does.
Mm.
Okay, so you can find Tina at lighten-upwellness.com and through the Real 50 Over 50 webpage. She's up there too with links to all of her places. And she's incredible and somebody that I could highly recommend having in your life. And I'm just delighted that you're part of this project. And I look forward to many more adventures with you.
Likewise, Donna, thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
And we will be back next week with another interview. So join us then.